But now let's move on. We could talk about story all day, but let's move on to the characters. As bad as all this crap is, it is the damage he does to the characters that is the real insult. He wants a funny line from Rey, who says the Force is a power Jedis have for floating rocks, so that she can giggle and be amazed that she can feel the Force tickling her hand, which is Luke tickling it with a blade of grass. Luke gets a laugh from a Mr. Miyagi Karate Kid moment when he slaps her hand. Ha ha. A cheap laugh at the expense of a girl who at this point has already bent people's minds to her will, read thoughts vividly enough to see actual pictures of what they are thinking, has already had a really good description from Maz Kanata about the Force binding all living things, has used it to see the future, has used it to successfully overpower a physically stronger and much more experienced Dark Jedi in a lightsaber duel. Float rocks indeed. He does get to set up the ending scene, where Rey floats rocks from the mouth of the tunnel. For some reason he makes Poe and Leia all gaga over that moment. Why? Leia can fly through space. She should give as big a flying flip she can move rocks as I did. And this takes us back to the start of the movie, where everything went wrong from the moment we were back on Ahch-To with Rey holding out the lightsaber. The lightsaber. Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber. The lightsaber from A New Hope. The lightsaber from The Empire Strikes Back. And the one used to duel Darth Vader before Luke lost his hand, and the lightsaber in Cloud City. J.J. Abrams did painstaking work to make this lightsaber a major story element. It is the ultimate lightsaber. Kylo Ren wants it. It is epic. And Luke throws it away. From that moment on, Rian spends all his time deconstructing the character building done by JJ instead of just telling a good story. Luke becomes a whiny, spineless loser. Rian knew we were all expecting the now wiser and Obi-Wan version of Luke Skywalker, but no, we get this tired old man. The visuals of his T-65 under the water. All this insulting milking cows and fishing. Really hasty and really poor Jedi training for Rey. He never became anything but that tired old man for the rest of the film. We never got to see Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. The bad CGI force projection that he did at the end. I wasn't buying it. Rian has Snoke read Rey's mind and says, "Oh, I guess I was wrong. Skywalker's no threat at all. He's just a sad old man." And then there's Rey, built up in this story as the protagonist. She was in The Force Awakens, and then she sits back all confused and does no character growth at all here, is slapped back in her abilities that were so built up. Rian has one chance to expose Rey as bigger than a Jedi, take it in a new direction, when Luke asks her who she is when they're in the tree library. And he lets it go. And from there, Rey is sold to us as a nobody from nowhere with nothing. She exhibits none of her abilities, and ends the movie as a lost little girl sitting with the broken remains of the lightsaber, asking what on earth she's supposed to do. And in the middle of this dribble on Ahch-To, we see none other than Yoda. Here again is your chance to use a Star Wars story element to get this whiny old man you created back on track. And what does Yoda say and do? A bunch of hippie Buddhist garbage nonsense taken from Patrick Swayze in Point Break. Seriously. And then he calls down fire and thunder from the sky and does a happy dance. You get to bring back Yoda. And you do that? At this point I realized what had really happened here. Rian Johnson was so starry-eyed about getting to play with the ultimate Star Wars toys that he was doing what we all did as kids with our Star Wars toys. We made up stupid and unreal situations to play out Star Wars with our action figures. So much character destruction was going on that nobody was spared. And so here we go. Kylo Ren will not kill Leia. He calls off that attack, as we've talked about, but then he's full gung-ho to be the next Emperor. This back and forth between light and dark. So then is he the protagonist? Is he the antagonist? No. Rey's the antagonist. No. She's the protagonist. No. Luke's the protagonist. Wait, what's going on here? Oh, and then there's Finn. Finn and that other person that he spends all his time with for the movie. The entire story arc for Finn and that other person he was with was boring, pointless, and purposeless. Nothing either one said or did mattered in any way, or had any effect on anyone at all. When Phasma was going to chop their heads off, I was like, great, let's kill off these dead characters since that's what we're doing here anyway, destroying all that came before. Finn, Poe, and the other person with them were made into unlikable people that you no longer cared about, other than the fact that Poe was the only one saying what all of you were thinking. What the hell is wrong with all of you? He backtracks Poe. Rian turns him into a short-sighted prima donna, who somehow has to have it pointed out to him that he just killed 2/3 of all their pilots and destroyed all their bombers in a strategical disaster. And he was so happy. Why did they have to tell him he'd done that? Chewie. Let's talk about Chewbacca. He's been literally put on pause. His only friends are these furry penguins. The only relationship that has any growth is the Kylo-Rey one. And hey, there was some really good stuff there. And it was going good until he had to dissolve it right back into, I'm going to kill you so you can't kill me, fist fight in the span of about 5 seconds, after they'd been such a great team taking on the throne room guards together. It was a shame that Rian killed off Snoke. I don't think a single person didn't see the Kylo turning on Snoke twist from about 3 minutes beforehand. The moment was so heavy-handed and contrived, with Snoke narrating Kylo's thoughts in a way where all the statements were double meanings that pointed equally as well at Snoke as they did at Rey. This whole scene did not belong here. This is 3rd Act, Episode 9 stuff. And it was being regurgitated from Return of the Jedi. And what's with all the guards suddenly turning on Kylo after he's killed their supreme leader? Oops, we done screwed up and let her leader get killed. Why would they fight him now? They're unemployed. And in the Sith world, the natural order is that they would bend knee to Kylo Ren as the new pack leader. And then all of this taken from the Phantom Menace choreographed fight scene with these guards. With all that we've seen of Rey's growing abilities, she should have made Swiss cheese of these guys. And all of a sudden Kylo Ren has grown in strength in the matter of like 16 hours to be equal to Rey? None of the actions or abilities of the characters made any sense according to who we knew them to be from The Force Awakens. No one was spared here. Hux was portrayed as a full-on moron, when Rian had the chance to raise him up to be a new Grand Moff Tarkin. Chewbacca was becoming a real interactive character by the end of The Force Awakens, but here he's demoted. And let's not forget that bizarre Maz Kanata moment. This is literally within 24 hours of Maz Kanata's watering hole being obliterated, and all of a sudden she's flying around in some other place in a labor dispute with a jetpack in the middle of all of this. What gives? And back to Poe, who exhibited suicidal hero tendencies at the start of the film. Suddenly, he's turned into a sniveling coward, yelling for Finn to retreat instead of attacking the battering ram in that skim speeder. People say he learned a lesson here, how to be a leader. He was already a leader before this movie started. When he got into those things on the crate, he called it suicide. Isn't that exactly what climbing into one of those things and roaring out to meet the walkers was right from the word go? At what point did Poe get the idea that flying toward a fusion-powered battering ram towed by double-plated AT-AT walkers under a sky full of TIE fighters in a tin-can ground speeder that his foot was sticking out the side of was anything but suicide? Oh, I guess they were trying to buy time for the RimWorld allies to show up and save the day or something, which was another thing sold to us that never happened. You see, people, I don't get it. All the people who pointed out so many faults in The Force Awakens and Rogue One seem to have nothing bad to say about The Last Jedi. Very knowledgeable people with very solid backgrounds in film, ones who share my favorite and most hated film lists, seem to overlook the obvious faults in this film. Time will probably show that I'm being a bit harsh on Rian Johnson. Maybe. But it is riddled with inconsistencies and shoddy plotting and shallow characterizations. There are no adequate excuses for that joke of a plot. But I seem to be alone among the people I respect this time. Am I not a faithful enough fan? Or am I too much of one? I don't know. Another problem I had was the inconsistent character motivation. Luke has been slowly unfolding his case against the overly simplistic view of the Force and the duality of good and evil held by the Jedi doctrine. Solid reasons he has developed over years, and no amount of foot stamping and pleading on the part of Rey has shaken his belief that the Jedi Code has set the universe up for permanent disappointment and failure, and that each person must find their own way in the Force, an individual truth for each person, not the current fast track to misplaced trust and hubris. At least that's the impression I left the theater with. So after Rey leaves to go find Kylo, Luke decides that her betrayal and decision to go find Ren is another instance of a problem set up by this magnetic Jedi-Sith exaggerated polarizations. And so what does he do? He decides to burn down the tree with the scrolls in it. Okay, up to this point, I'm willing to suspend my disbelief and give Luke's current views the careful consideration they deserve. I'm conflicted at this point, and Luke approaches the tree reliquary with a torch. Determination set in his clenched jaw and a scowl. And then Yoda shows up and starts telling Luke he should trust his feelings on this, and that Yoda and the Grand Masters have known about these failings for a long time, that the Jedi Code is indeed flawed as Luke suspects. Suddenly Luke is transformed into a sniveling student full of self-doubt, and instantly recants all his hard-fought views. So Yoda calls lightning from the sky and burns the tree. Luke is now flabbergasted and in shock. "No, Yoda, what are you doing?" Luke gasps. Come on. Give Luke a little credit, and don't just yank away his beliefs for the sake of another wise Yoda versus poor little Luke, who just doesn't get it moment. A cute Mr. Miyagi Karate Kid moment at the expense of everything Luke has said up to this point. Now, for me, this is not a small flaw. The people make this story, and these people are pretty much random for the sake of memorable little visuals and moments and everything they've done so far. And Luke goes from master to buffoon. Or did he? Because up to a second ago, he was just as wise as Yoda is in correctly wanting to destroy the ancient text, so what is he? I guess he's just wishy-washy and indecisive and lacks self-confidence. That's something you should not do to the Last Jedi Master. For the rest of the film, we're supposed to trust wise Luke again, but he's an inconsistent character now, and to me that is a problem. Cool moment over at the expense of the characters again. But Ryan doesn't want to pay the price, so he goes back to the movie like it never happened. But it did. Just like Yoda can now fight in a war if he wants to. Yoda with an indestructible force body that can float from battle to battle, blowing crap up with lightning if he wants to. And remember how strongly Yoda has always felt about the dangers of the dark side and the ultimate cost to the universe if it's allowed to spread unchecked? So why don't Yoda and the other past masters not directly fight the Sith now that they're more powerful than when they were alive? Why doesn't Yoda teach Rey himself? If he stands by and doesn't use his powers while the last hope for the universe stumbles into a trap set by Snoke, one that will solidify victory for evil, well then he's no Jedi at all. Yet the fact that the Jedi training allows him to live beyond the grave and be part of the Force that holds all things together is proof of the validity and virtue of the Jedi Code. Obviously, the Jedi are needed in this universe, so why burn the books, Yoda? Oh, but you didn't burn the books, Yoda. After indicating that they were boring, he tells us that Rey has all she needs, and we see in the very end that Rey, fed up with whiny old man Luke, has stolen the books and has them stored in a glove compartment on the Falcon. So what gives with Yoda? He's playing tricks on poor old man Luke? He makes no sense either. All she needs to do is read these books? And Yoda says she must not be lost to the dark side. What? I can't keep up. I thought Rey was a nobody from nowhere with nothing. A whole movie of Luke going on and on about the light side being impotent and full of failure, say, why don't we just all go to the dark side? That's where Rian was leading us. So why would Luke care about anything anymore? And then here, Yoda comes along, does a dance, and speaks double talk. Why aren't you fighting for your cause, Yoda? For the sake of those left alive. For the sake of the balance that will be forever lost. Rian has confused Yoda's role in all of this, just like he did with Luke. It is just another plot hole, I guess, but the stakes are larger than a simple space chase that would logically have ended in 16 minutes instead of 16 hours. I can't shake this feeling that the entire movie is an inconsistent series of scenes played out at the expense of all the foundational concepts and characters in the Star Wars universe. And in the end, I should care. Because Disney, you sold a story to a planet of 8 billion people that was good with The Force Awakens, and urged me through relentless marketing and commercialism to come back to the movie theater and give them my money. And they sold me snake oil. As much as I hope the next movie sold by the dark side, Disney, will be good entertainment and believable storytelling, I will no longer gamble my money at the movie theater on it. I will wait until a story can prove itself, and then rent it for $6 off Apple TV. Oh, and let's not forget the other giant festering sore of a character in this movie, Laura Dern as General Holdo, or something. Admiral, maybe. I hated this character from the get-go. She was flatly determined to undermine the possibility of a story happening or moving forward at all. With Poe yelling at her to stop holding the movie hostage and let everyone get on with it, she literally sat there and said nothing. Nothing. And stopped every move the three main characters made to keep the story moving forward. At every turn, she gave no explanation, no reason, no words. Literally said nothing. And stopped everyone from doing anything. And then she sits alone on the ship she's determined to sacrifice her life on to save everyone else, and she just watches out the window as the magnifying glass technology on Snoke's ship helps them shoot down the clay pigeon transport ships for a half an hour. Finally, when there is practically no one left, then she decides to kamikaze into Snoke's ship. It was spectacular and a good visual, but why did it take her so long? Why did you just sit there and watch everyone die, sit there and do nothing for the whole movie but shut down every storyline someone offered to you? You know, it's really sad when the characters themselves within the script are offering you story arcs and you refusing them. And then this culminates in a rebellion against the rebellion, with Holdo shooting the good guys who were acting out of self-preservation due to your complete inaction and non-communication. And it ends with Leia back from the dead, shooting Poe. When Poe saw her, he put his gun down. All she had to do was talk to him, which is what she did after he woke up on the clay pigeon, and she told him to look out the window. Whoa, back up. New Star Wars tech here. A window. And what does he see with his eyeballs? A planet. Hey, where did that come from? In the First Order, they can't see that planet. Oh, but they have something better than a window. You see, they have a magnifying glass, so they can see the planet too. Oops.